You are watching Access LaPorte County, Channel 97. Coming up next is the May 10th, 2024 meeting of the Long Beach Building Commission. You can find more information for this meeting by visiting www.accesslaportecounty.org.
We'll call the meeting to order at 1 o'clock. This is the regularly scheduled meeting for the Long Beach Building Commission, May 10th, 2024. First item is Larry Wall. Yes, Bob LeMay. Here. Anita Remages. Here. Ken Bosnan. Here. Joy Schmidt. Here. Pete Five Oaks is not here. Joel is not here. Carter. Here. Chris is here. First item of business is the approval of minutes from the previous meeting, April.
I move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Carried. Commissioners report. In April, we had 29 permits with construction costs of $1,558,116, which generated fees of $17,317. We have 168 calls on permits and or information requests. The other stuff is just standard on here. Any questions or comments on the commissioner's report? Next, we'll move into old business. There's really nothing new for MS4. We're all set with the ordinance, right, Chris? I think they just have to vote, or did they already vote? Okay. Coastal resiliency groups, there's nothing to report there. The building department software, we're going to start up probably next week with Sarah and get that moving forward so we can implement it. Mount Clear Way, Gary Green sent me a note this morning about he thinks he'll have the stuff recorded next week. There is one issue that we've been back and forth on. Does everybody got it? I know everybody received all the emails about septic and components in the setbacks. This is a job that is pretty much impacted by that. The entire drain field is in the setback. So when I say we, I mean Honor and Carter and I can enforce anything. We just want to be clear so that we're doing or enforcing the rules according to what the building commission desires. I don't know if you want to talk about this now or wait till I have it listed in new business. I don't know, Chris, how does that work? Does it matter or?
So I don't know the law is so big.
Okay,
Maybe we should wait for new business because we're not going to consider this permanent anyway. It's not
Okay.
right? And that way people who are in the audience can leave
okay,
if they so choose.
sure. 2616 Lakeshore Drive, they sent us the pool permit came in and they sent us the coverage calculations, which weren't included. Their coverage is 33.5%. We can either, I suppose the best, easiest thing to do would just be to ask them if they can get their coverage. Or no, 35, I think that's 33, something else. They're under the 35%, so they meet the requirements.
I would move to approve.
Second,
Second.
Bob. All those in favor?
Aye.
Both same side. It's passed. Next up on old business is 3007 mobile portal. this, at the last meeting, this came up, we asked for, a local survey. There was a perspective drawing with topography on it, but we didn't have a topo survey. They provided that, I think within the first couple of days after that. So as everybody has seen, the applicants have variances for encroachments on the 30-foot Ridge Road setback and the placement of the HVAC equipment towards the Loma portal side. The front door is on Ridge Road, which means the rear yard is facing north towards the Brown residence. It's actually a little bit, I think, northeast. The proposed structure, the entire back of the house encroaches 10 foot into the 20-foot rear setback. And they do not have a variance for this encroachment. And then the second issue on that is the septic components. Any discussion on this?
So when they went to the BZA, did the BZA not understand what the front of the house was?
Well, let me clarify, because I have the opportunity to attend both. And every applicant is advised that the only thing that gets considered is what is asked. I would venture to say, without speaking for the BZA, that they did understand where the front of the house was going to be, hence all of the grants for the varying setbacks on Ridge Road. There was in-depth discussions. The applicants were represented by builder and council. So, and as you will see in the findings and decisions, as the BZA always indicates, there is no variances, there is no relief that's considered or approved other than that what is asked for. So what you have before you in terms of findings and decisions, or what was shared with you, is what was considered and approved and mirrors what was asked for in their petition as amended by them.
So apparently they didn't know they couldn't ask for these.
I can't speak to what they did or didn't know. They didn't ask for it.
Yeah.
I mean, I can say this, and without speaking, they have a representative here that, well, they had an attorney. They had an attorney who was familiar with the code. They had a builder who, I think, pinch hit and got put in a tough situation, but then reviewed code, and, you know, you can certainly ask for them, but there wasn't any relief asked for on the backside based on the applications and based on the finance decision.
I'll hold it for myself. Anybody else have anything, any discussion?
It seems to me that we cannot approve this at our level. We would have to go to the BZA because our job is black and white.
And I think we need to make it clear to them why we can't approve it, so they know what they need to ask the BZA for.
Is this the one that never came to the building commission?
Originally, I'm not certain. It seems like there were some conversations, but I don't think formally an application was submitted.
I met with Mark, who's here, Mark Scott from Mark Scott Homes, and Mr. Bernicki at one time before, I think it was before you guys went to the BZA for the last time. And here it is, I can pull this slide from I don't know why I see something on my screen, but so they have variances. If you look at the line dash line, which is right here, and it extends all the way through, that's the 30-foot setback on at the front side. Ridge Road side has a 30-foot setback, Loma Portal has a 30-foot setback. So the line and dash is. Sorry, my screen has something else on it, so this is the 30-foot setback on the Loma Portal side. This is the 30-foot setback on the Ridge Road side. This is the front of the house. The Ridge Road side is the front of the house. So the back of the house is here, and that's approximately north or northeast. And the setback, it says 10 foot here, but the setback in the rear of the house is actually 20 feet in that in that zoning district. So the house encroaches 10 foot into the 20-foot rear setback. This setback is a side setback, which is listed as 25 feet. It's actually 10. And up, if you look up in the corner up here, that's a 10-foot setback from property line to, I'm assuming this is the septic area here. I can't see that. I think it says that it does say that it's a present system. So that meets the state and local minimum. Has to be 5 foot from property lines, 10 foot from a building line, any septic component. So that meets that. However, depending on what, it also means the side setback for the car purposes. But the back of the house, which is this line across here, is encroaching 10 foot into the rear setback. Everybody understand?
So Larry, we're proposals to deny it. We need to make sure that we and they understand what the problems are. One is the rear setback.
I don't think there are any others here. When I met with Mark and the owner, we talked about these front setback lines and septic, and then the air conditioning systems came up outside of my conversations. Obviously, somebody either at the BZA level or whatever talked about this, and they got a variance for that.
They did.
And they pulled this section, which I'm not sure what that is, if it's a patio or if it's a retaining wall, was in the setback, and they pulled that back in. So I think Joy or Bob both have said, at our level, we can't approve from it because of the rear setback.
Can we clarify though, as submitted, right? So then they have the option, and they have representative here today, that if they want to go back to the drawing board and pull these within, right, that's an option, or a variance.
Right.
And then continue this to where it's still pending before you, subject to a potential denial, because yeah, your charge is clear.
Okay.
That you can't grant a variance.
So I guess what,
Do they need a variance also for septic components in the setback?
well, it appears not, because this would be a side setback,
Oh, okay.
which is 10 feet. So what's proposed here is 10 feet. By septic rules, it only has to be 5 feet from a property line, but they met the burden on side setback of 10 feet.
Thank you.
So, go ahead, Mark.
Yeah.
This is Mark.
Yeah, yeah.
You better come up here, just
No, thank you.
explain who you are.
Make sure you turn.
Get that foot and turn right there. You go.
Thank you. Mark Scott Holmes. Just to clarify, again, this was, I guess not known to us, but this was a corner lot, and we were always informed at least that, the side setback was 10 feet, and we had 25, 30 in the front, and we got the variance for the Ridge Road setback. But you're saying that this is not a corner lot, or you're
Well, a corner lot still has, the 30 foot on both sides is because it's on a street. So the front, then where's the front door? So the front door is the front setback. Then obviously the rear setback would be behind it. So the side setbacks, normally, if this property wasn't on Loma Portal, you wouldn't have the burden of having a 30 foot setback on the Loma Portal side. But because it's a corner lot with two streets, you have double 30 foot setbacks. And then the rear setback is 20 foot. And that's throughout the entire district except the town, except for Lakeshore Drive.
So I guess the question that I have, is the address is Loma Portal Way, which is the front, I mean, the actual considered front. But I also know in Long Beach too, just because you're on any of those streets, front doors don't always face the street, they can face a different direction, so. Is there something in the ordinance that says the front door must face the?
I don't know that there's something in the ordinance. It was brought up at the last meeting that the front of the house is always where the front door is. And Pete brought it up to me, and then I talked to Chris, and that's the way. I don't know if it's, I can't really answer your question because I haven't read that ordinance to say, does it say front? And I understand your point, and but I have to, the group has to go by what we understand the rule to be.
Sure,
We
so,
understand the rule to be that the front of the house is where the front door is.
okay, so if we were to find that the zoning. I mean, I would think that the lot would, well, I don't know, I'm just trying to figure out like, what are the proper steps if I go to zoning and they say, hey, front, just because Loma Portal, if your front door doesn't face the street, it doesn't. And then, but I don't wanna come back here and say, hey, just
No,
because our front door doesn't face Loma Portal.
So here's the problem, Mark, and you and I have talked about this both in person and on the telephone. Actually, when you first brought it to me, I called you before I even talked to the owners. It's a very difficult site.
Right.
When they came in for their demolition permit,
Yeah.
I know you were involved, it was another
Yeah.
contractor. I said to them, I said, it's very unusual to tear a house down before you have plans of what you're gonna do. Because you lose that, which we still are gonna discuss today, you lose any grandfathering. Because the original house was probably further into the setback than what you guys are. So then once that house was demoed, it went back to, this is a lot, and it has to meet all the requirements. So, we can right now approve this at our level because of the rear setback. I would be happy to do some more research for you and look through and see if there's something that could be done, but at this point, I can't do that.
Yeah.
I mean,
And
I say,
I'm not.
we can't do.
Right, and I understand, but if zoning would say, that our setbacks are correct based on this lot. I mean, I think isn't it this particular lot? Like if we would just change the front entrance, does that change all the setbacks then?
Well, and let me stop you there. That's where the gray area starts, right?
Yeah, well,
They
that's.
can't give you legal advice. They have, no, I get it. And I'm just putting it back on you is that the burden is on the applicant and the builder to tell us what you want to be considered, not for, this is where the building commission gets in trouble because time and again,
Okay.
they try to work but their charge
Yeah.
is straightforward. So that if you go to the BZA and you ask for and you get, well, they have no problems. Just like the setback variances that were asked for and the placement of HVAC, that's not even a question anymore before the building commission. So, the options are to continue this and then see if there is something. But, as far as we're all informed, but the applicant decided that Ridge Road was the front. And because that's the front, that's the way that the rest of them,
Okay,
is there room, is there gray area? Maybe, short of going to the International Building Code and doing all that, which are all incorporated by reference. I know it's difficult for you because you're just trying to make this work and you came in after the,
Yeah.
the fact. And so now you're trying to find a way to place it on this irregular lot, right?
all right, well, we'll start with zoning and see where we,
Yeah, and it's just, we're in this position where we have to treat everybody the same. We don't have the option to be able to go into gray areas.
Yeah.
Everything that we do is black.
and I agree with that, I just think we've taken it now, and brought it to a gray area because it has a local portal address. So which would dictate that is the front of the, that's.
So maybe that's an
And-
argument you can make with
Yeah,
the BC.
so, well, would it be BZA or, I mean,
Any decision or anything from, well, I'm gonna let Chris Hand talk about this, but if we make a decision here, the next step, if somebody doesn't agree with that decision, is to go to the BZA. I
Okay.
think there's some court remedy after that, but Chris can.
yeah, okay,
Well, and then I guess the issue is you demonstrating to the building commission that you're applying, I think no matter how you slice it here, you're gonna come up with a setback issue. If you flip flop it and you have the 30 foot right on the, if you make Loma Portal, you may have setback issues the other way, which I don't think if you stand here that you know the answer to that either, right?
Yeah.
And so your options at this is to have them continue so that they don't vote this down,
Right.
right? And then you amend it.
Yeah.
They can vote it down and you could disagree and challenge their decision, so you have an appeal right and going further, but these are all in the code. You
Yeah.
could appeal their decision to the BZA, or you could just go for another variance.
all right, well, thank you. Yeah, all right,
Sorry.
no, so you're gonna give us a continuance to figure this out?
I think I agree
Well,
with Chris, rather than deny the permit,
Yeah.
I think that might put more of a black mark on it than you want,
Yeah.
if you want. So
Thank you.
we'll just continue it and until you guys can get some proper advice.
Well, and I think that gives you a little bit of room that if you find something or a basis that they're allowed to consider, maybe you don't have to go for the variance.
Sure, all right, thank you.
Thanks, Mark.
Do we know, is there a definition somewhere defining the front of the house?
So one question. Is there another, but it's still on white for this?
I'm sorry, what was
Is
it?
that the, sorry about that. Is the generator, variant still in place?
No, that was,
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mark. Okay, actually, the next three, Pete was working on. I guess it's up to us. We could discuss them, but I think it may be best to have Pete here. Yeah, did most of the work on these three. Is that okay with everybody?
Yes.
Yeah, unless anybody here is specifically here for one of those three. No, okay. We'll table those till next meeting. New business. First up is septic components and setbacks. We have, it was mentioned, I think it was 2 meetings ago, on a project that was before us for something totally unrelated to septics, but it was noted at the meeting that the septic drain field was beyond, on the Lakeshore Drive property, the septic drain field was beyond the 106.6. So after the meeting, I went back and I just looked through the ordinances, and I wanted to make sure that we enforce unilaterally our ordinances and rules on all property. So we do have a permit, which is the Mount Clear Way permit before us. And there's potential on 3 properties that people have called us about. Not specifically septic issues or septic permits, but just new builds or renovations, which would put the septic system or components of the septic system into setbacks. So I would like to, from the commission, have a definite answer to, do we allow any septic component in a setback or beyond 106.6 on Lake Shore Drive? Anyway,
What do you say, Larry, we move that to the end of the agenda?
okay,
That way folks here
all right.
get their issues dealt with.
So I'm trying to figure out who's here, who I know. Dan is here for item number 25. 1706 sand removal. And that's what you're here for, right, Dan?
Right.
So the permit before us is to remove sand that is blown over the dune onto a full deck and some lawn areas. And so I met with Dan, we talked about it. It's pretty straightforward. He's gonna remove the sand. I thought you were gonna bring a skid steer.
No, man, it has to be.
Yeah, you would bring that, right, down on the owner's property, take the sand off their land and move it to the dune in front of the property.
For the contour, so that way it doesn't look like I'm just putting piles.
Right.
I'm gonna make sure it's not, so it's natural.
Everything is behind the natural ordinary high water mark, which means that, you know, for our purposes, the town of Long Beach has the only jurisdiction, land side of the natural ordinary high water mark. The DNR and the Army Corps have jurisdiction when they're lakeward of, the natural ordinary high water mark. So, in my opinion, this meets the requirements. Dan has assured us that they're not gonna take the sand and push it down to the lake. They're gonna disperse it across the dune that's in front of the house. And you and I didn't talk about this, but Carter said that he talked to you. Are you gonna plant some dune grass there too? Right. So, I expressed to the owner last year, the reason why there's such a sand buildup on this particular property is because in prior years, they dug a trench or a pathway through the dune and destroyed the dune grass. So if you destroy the dune grass, which is a natural windbreak, sand break, then the sand is going to move towards the land side of the property further. So Dan's going to rectify that. And he did the same thing last year on another property down in stop 1304, I think.
Yes.
So this meets all of our requirements.
Do we have a topo survey? We don't know what it's like now. We're not gonna know after they're done.
And what, Dan, no, you don't have a topo, do you?
No.
Let's see.
And how did that turn out with the other one that you did there?
I conferenced them as back as possible. I didn't make bounds beyond.
Yeah,
So I made sure it kind of still looked natural. I mean, it's still gonna walk in and out, but I mean, so it's consistent with the rest of the dunes.
I'm gonna look, if you just bear with me here, but does anybody else have any discussion? I'm gonna look and see if I have it.
Do we require a topo survey for this?
when I looked at the ordinance, the topographic ordinance, it looked to me like it was required. I'm trying to look at it.
The only thing I have are the photos that Dan included. We don't have a topo. This shows the sand across, that's a deck portion. And
That's required under
it's required.
114
I can't.
All right. Dan, you're just gonna have to ask her to get a topo.
Who would I get that from, like, an engineer?
Pardon
Where would I get that local launch?
me? Just, you know, you can get it from Steve Fay. I don't know, she may have already had a survey done by somebody else. Whoever did her survey, ask her if she has a survey. I said, whoever did her survey should be able to do a topo fairly easily. For,
It's under section 154, 112.
It'd be 411.
Yep.
Okay. So it'll just be a continuous, and back again.
right.
So both on the same, right?
No, I'm just, sorry, as soon as you get, as soon
I
as
get it. It doesn't matter to me if I get it done or not, people want anything done that they can't get done, we're all there, so. Okay, I'll just come back.
all right, thanks, Ed. Just let us know when you get the topo.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, you guys are here for, I forgot the address.
Oh,
What's the address?
what the. 43 for a month. That's another shot. Right. Okay.
Is it an old business?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry, guys, that was an old business. So what, at the last meeting, when this was presented, we had questions about, whether or not the entire structure was being demoed or which parts of the structure were being demoed. Carter actually met, with, Frank. With Frank on site. I met with, what's the address?
2319.
It's old business.
2319.
It's old business and it's not on here. So I think, Chris, how do we handle it?
Just, yeah, you mean to go back to revisit it?
Yeah,
Just add to the agenda.
Yeah.
yeah, so I neglected to put it on the sheet, unfortunately. So at the last meeting, they've gotten a variance for the elevator. And there's a section across the front. I can pull it up here. '23.
19. 4.
Okay, so here is the site plan. This is the existing up in the top left. This is the new construction in the center of the drawing. Zoom it up here so you can see where. This, if you can see you can see my mouse moving. That's an elevator that they received a variance for because it's in the setback. The 30-foot setback, because just like the prior property we were talking about, it's a corner lot. So this line, double dash line, is the 30-foot setback on the floor mount side. And the same line, double dash line over here is the 30-foot setback. So half the house is in the setback. As is the elevator area. The elevator area, they got variance for. The only other work that they're doing in the setback is in this area, which is a cover for a porch, which they're replacing the concrete at grade. The rest of the project, the questions we had were on sections which. Let's wait until this comes. Everything that's hashed here is being removed. This is there's a carport that's being removed. I don't know what this room is, but it's being removed. And all these brick areas, which is what I wasn't sure of, as well as the roof areas are removed. So the encroachments that they have, the elevator, which is here, this is the foundation plan, it's where the Xbox is. In this section is being replaced, which is in the setback. Everything else meets the code, meets our ordinance as part of it.
Everything is the code except for the elevator, that's for the elevator.
Yes, that's correct.
Take a motion to approve.
Okay.
Then we have no.
Yeah.
At this point.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All set.
Thank you.
Okay, now I've lost my place. Oh, here, next up, I think this is you. Okay. 3002 Northmore. We can't approve that here, Greg, because those are in the setback.
Okay.
They're gonna have to go to the BZA. I know you guys have come to us before, but it's the same issue. They're in the setback. That's the rear setback from the house, the front doors in one more. So,
Well, they're not a setback, they might be in the side setback, because I changed what I'm doing. I'm not gonna go down at the bottom. There, I think
all right, hold on, let me pull it up.
I sent you some, pictures of, we're trying to protect that Wilson. And they're gonna put new plants and stuff, and they took out a bunch of ugly bushes. Now we're concerned about the.
Okay, so, this on the left side of the page is Lakeshore Drive. On the right side of the page is Northmore. So the front setback, 30 feet. There's no work going on in any setback on the front of the house. Besides the rear setback, which is the Lakeshore Drive side, is 20 feet. And where these red mark, I'm assuming those are retaining walls.
Yeah, there is still a wall, I don't have to hold that.
Right, so those are in the setback. That's the rear setback for that house. And that's 20 feet. So we can't approve it at this level. It has to go to the BZA.
They're running in the side setback, I don't think they're down on it.
Well, so
I won't put it in, well, anyway, I'll put that, they'll be back farm, but they're not in the Lakeshore Drive setback.
okay, so what would happen is you would have to resubmit the drawing with them, move back to the 20-foot line.
Okay.
Okay,
All right, because I didn't realize they're in the 20-foot line.
it's not drawn here, but this says 10-foot building line right here. So if you double that, it's gonna come back to about where your arrow is here, which means that these two are gonna be in the rear setback.
Okay, so I'll just withdraw that.
Right, you'll have to, if
I
you,
would put them back, I would move them back so they're not in the rear set.
okay,
Basically, all I'm trying to do is hold back.
okay.
And I think I have another one for Iowa.
2006 Iowa.
No,
I think the paperwork in,
when did you turn it in?
yeah, I don't know, that's last week. Basically, all I'm doing there is, they have planters, I'm taking the limestone caps off, putting flashing down, putting the caps back on, and they've got some spalted brick. And I'm gonna take out about 8 spalted brick and replace them.
What's the address?
2006 Iowa. Oh, it was when they used it.
Oh, I already approved it.
Okay.
I could approve without the board,
Right,
anything
it's all, but I.
Yeah, that's already-
Okay.
that's already done.
All
All right.
thanks. We don't have it, that's it. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you all.
Who are you, which one are you?
I have 20. 205 LLC.
Okay. This is a hot tub. I'll put the drawing up so everybody can see it. Here's a copy of the, oh, sorry. You guys have to let me bring my granddaughter here, then this would all be done very quickly. This is the plat survey. Actually, Joe called and couldn't figure out the survey that was sent with the permit. This is that survey without column. So I'll bring up the other one that was submitted with the permit so you can see what they're doing. Basically, they're putting a hot tub in on the side of the house. It meets all the requirements. It meets the setback, it meets the coverage calculations.
I move to approve.
Second.
All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Both same sign. Russell.
So they,
The physical permit will be done, what they tried, probably one day, maybe Tuesday at the latest, and then Carter, this is Carter, he'll be. Oh, that brings the permit so he can meet, are you the contractor?
No,
So he'll meet with your contractor and just explain what he expects on inspections. Okay,
that's all.
Thank you.
Jordan, what do you hear? Oh, McGee. That's item number 24. There's one problem with this, Jordan.
Do we get those site plans and coverage stuff?
I've got it, but there's an issue with it. I'm gonna bring it up with. Okay. So on the site plan, it shows the 34.8 coverage. The brown area, the tan area shows the deck at 31.66 feet. that meets the requirements. All right, now, hold on, there's a discrepancy between with the drawings. This is it. It's the same. Let's get rid of it. So you show 31.66 on the site plan that you showed us, or gave to us.
The first floor plan shows it to be 35.7.
Right, the drawings show a deck that's 35.7 feet. So what that does is that puts you over the coverage, so,
On my permanent equipment, we do the regulates, this would be one that we're gonna use for coverage.
right, but you can't, we can't have one document that says you're putting in 31 feet. And then the drawings show that you're putting in 35 feet. They have to match. So your permit has to say what you're doing. The site plan has to agree with what you say there, and the drawings have to agree with your site plan right now. And I'm trying to pull them up.
But the amount of regulates will, we're good, that's at 34.8% coverage.
If it was 31.66 feet, you're good, but if it's 35.7,
From the one from regulates. So I find.
Right, so what you showed us was, or what you turned in was a survey, which is what the coverage is based on. And that shows a deck that's 12 feet deep
Yes,
from street to lake and 31.66 feet wide.
yes,
That meets the requirements.
yes.
What you gave us in the drawings themselves shows that the deck, let me see if I can't bring it up
You're an
here.
architect, so drew the plan, and, you know, doing stuff along beaches, that I have to meet my requirements. So regulates gave me my requirements to build, that's what put the permit.
Okay, so this drawing.
Well, Larry, just to elaborate, the reason you do this is because lots of people say what they're gonna do and then
Right.
somehow the kind of project changed, but
Right.
because the survey is accurate, and that's usually the heavy lifting, if you're inclined.
So your survey, you saw what it says 31 point whatever, that deck is centered on the house, but there's space on each side.
Yeah, 3 feet on each
East
side.
side west.
And what car comes out with this whole building?
So what we're saying is, everything has to match. You can't say you're doing one thing on one plan and then show us the build plan that says something else. You know,
I understand what you're saying, and not only show, well, this is what we're building with this. Are we allowed to do anything contingent, you know, to approve this, so I get the documents, so don't architect is.
well, the problem is, no, the problem is you can't build what you gave us on the drawing because it doesn't meet the cover.
Right, this one is the rare, it's the.
But that's not a build, that's a survey.
Right.
They have to match.
Okay.
So we can't
So
say,
the architect is we do the drawing.
So
we can't tell you could do something because we don't know what you're really gonna do.
And I can't do it just based on this one.
No, everything has to match.
If, and I'm not suggesting, because again, trying to work to where you don't have the burden of proof and they do. My suggestion would be that if you were inclined, and certainly understandable if not, is because the survey is usually the time constraint, right? If they were to submit, and either Carter and you submit an updated architectural drawing that matches, are you inclined to let Larry and Carter make that decision and issue the permit? I suggest just because it's building season, but again, it's certainly understandable why you wouldn't, because so many of your issues in this town turn out to be not what people suggest, so. It's, like, again, the only reason I bring that up is because the survey is usually that's the time constraint that you don't have.
Right, and you already have it, so the architect should be able to do that quick.
Yeah,
That would be up to.
yeah, I'll make that motion, so if they can submit a build plan that matches the site plan, then I would suggest that Larry and Carter can do it. That's my motion.
Second,
I'll second.
Joyce second, any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Both same side. Okay, you're all set.
Leave, I'm 23 number 11, part 1.
Oh. I know you, I just have never met. I'm Larry, talk to us.
Oh, yeah. I said,
Want me to come up? You can come up. I think it should be okay. So Dan, bought the house and there were some issues on some retaining wall back in the house. They had to replace it. He got a permit, gave him a permit to replace the walls. When they removed the walls, in order to do the work, they had to remove the concrete slabs that were there. So his permit before us right now is the wall work's done. So his permit was to replace the slabs that were removed to do the wall. Those slabs encroached into setbacks, but they were there, they were removed to preparatory repair work, excuse me. And so I don't see any reason why we shouldn't.
I'll second.
So this is another case where the slabs into the setback, they've been removed and replacing them in the setback.
Right, so let me, I
I have a survey.
have it. Right, the course, so, pardon me. The course of the work was I don't remember what the problem was. I don't know if it was water or whatever, so they removed the slabs to get it to repair that problem. But they also
Got a combination.
found it. So in order to do that work, they had to remove the slab. Now that work is done, they want to put the slab in. They also found a casket in the backyard.
So I guess I just want us to be, and I find the biggest, I just would like us to be consistent, because a couple months ago, we denied permit down on Oakville across the new parking lot of Country Club, because the argument was made that if they removed that house and built a new one, that there would be a certain period of time when it will be grandfathered in because the house would. And I think we made the wrong mistake, wrong decision then. And I just would like us to be consistent. I'm fine with them doing this, but I think if somebody's gonna build a house that's non-conforming, tear down the house, they tell us in advance that they're gonna do it, it's all part of the plan, that ought to be grandfathered. I just don't buy this argument that, gee, you tear it down, it's gonna be gone for 2 weeks and it's not grandfathered anymore. You know, it's a little different than this situation where they tore the house down without asking. I guess I just like us to be consistent.
Yeah, and a way for future consideration might be to suggest that there's some leeway or a little clearer on the repair and replace, which this really is.
Right.
There's a means to an end, because I do think that you could read the letter of law and say, this isn't grandfather. Once you correct it, you don't get to do it. But the intent is to repair and replace. So that's for future data. As you're reviewing some of these things, this suggests to the APC and town council to change, maybe that's a clarification that would put it in the code. some of the stress.
Any other discussion? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. You're all set then.
Appreciate it. 2202 Lakeshore Drive.
I don't have it on here. What is it?
It's a bird model. There's a-
How you approve it, Larry?
Did I approve
It
this?
says here, on 426, you approve.
Oh, it's already approved. You just have, are you the builder or the owner? Okay, so you'll have to get with Carter and we can get the number on the website. Or they'll bring the permit out and start, so you know what our inspections are. Schedule. Yeah, okay. I'm sorry, I just said, you know, we've got about another hour and a half. I'm good. Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm good. Thanks.
Thanks. I don't know. 2616. 616.
Number 2965, that's next time.
Okay, I have to recuse myself. Did everybody see that?
Yes, I'll move to approve 2965 Ridge Road.
I'll second it. That's remove carpeting and install hardwood floors.
Yes, sir.
All right, so any discussion? Otherwise, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Approved.
Okay. We just did 2303. $2049 Lakeshore Drive is a remove and replace failed retaining walls with patio blocks. Carter has met with the owners there. It's a strictly remove and replace. It should be approved. And second,
I'll second.
Joy,
Let me take a quick peek.
sorry.
2045 is it? 2049?
24. I can read, actually, now I can read. Want to see it?
I see a note here where you're saying it needed a site plan on 426,
Am I using, Mark, is this the right one? Maybe I'm wrong.
2049.
This gets me skipping all over here, gets me problems. Oh, no, this is not, no. This,
Oh, this is, oh, I didn't, yeah, I see that one.
this is not the one that this permit has to go to the meeting and we need a site plan before we go out with it. Yes. I'm sorry, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we need he's at 52% coverage. So, no, he's gonna have to ask the owners to give him a survey so that we can see it. Because he's so far out of the coverage. 3002 Lakeshore Drive, that is I'll bring this up so everybody can see it.
What number, what address is this?
3002 Lakeshore Drive. This property is already over the 35%. And if you look at the drawing that I have up on the screen, this staircase is a remove and replace, which is fine. This little deck is new, and this flat area, I forget what they call it a new hardscape. this area with the bar is new and it puts them over the coverage, so in a minimum, meeting coverage calculations, but by me, I've been on the site, they're over coverage, so we can't approve this.
So we're denying it because it's over coverage,
Right.
otherwise they're okay with setbacks?
The work is okay with setbacks, but it's over their coverage. If they can send us a proper survey, which this is a survey, but it has no coverage numbers in it. If they, I'm sorry, they're 66% coverage, so we can't approve the new one getting there. So I don't know if they wanted to, if they want us to deny it. And I don't think they're gonna be able to do anything because of coverage, so they would have to go to the BCA. Does everybody agree with that?
Yes,
Okay,
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
any discussion? All those in favor, aye.
I,
Both same sign. 1920 Oriole Trail. They need, I'll bring it up here so you can see. I'm going to show you this first. This is their coverage calculations. They are. Where's your percentage?
he said 20, but I don't see a second one anymore.
Let me get here, 19, 20.
It seems to me that if someone's adding coverage, we should need a site plan to make sure about setbacks and to make sure coverage in the points.
Well,
There's a lot of items that he's replacing this, is repair and replace other small section of the staircases going, is 0.25%. But it's small.
It's not,
here's the site plan on the screen. So the deck is back here. And I'm assuming Carter, you've been there.
Yeah, it's existing deck. All he's doing is changing the stair location
Is the stair location here?
and with the size being 30,000 square feet, he's at like 20%. And 1%.
And he's not in the setbacks.
That's the answer.
Just because we've already done it once here today, would you ask, since you've got a relationship with the contractor and so on, would you ask them to revise this site plan and show what he's doing so that we can approve it? Yeah, I think you could do the same thing.
And the actual calculation, right? And that's your point, so that there's a record of it, so that when they don't match it, they submit it to you.
Right.
yeah, so I would say, I'd make a motion, Larry and Carter can approve this, and let's say it's in the site plan and assure themselves that there's no setback coverage issues.
I'll second that.
Joy, second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Both same sign. Next up is 307 Moore Road. We have to deny this, this is, I think, the third or fourth time they've come to us in the last year. This is the property right behind the real estate office on Lake Shore Drive. It's probably at 80 or 90% coverage right now. And we have explained to them, I don't know if Carter did, but I know Lou did, I did. And I know Carter, as you talked.
Yeah.
And told them, they can't put anything else there. Does anybody want to see the problem? We talked about it.
It's a number to,
Yeah, I've seen it.
Right.
can they just keep coming to us every month and ask for the same thing over and over again?
They get the decision, I would.
Well, then.
Well, I think we should deny.
Make a motion to deny.
I'll second.
Okay. Any discussion?
Yeah, just one question on that, landscaping. Just what systems make the right?
No, they want to put hardscape.
Yeah.
And if you turn down stop 31, it's the second building on the east side of the street. It's land, I mean, it's a little small one.
There's more to it than vegetation.
Right.
Okay.
We had another, which is not on here. I think we're done with the hard permits. We had another situation at 3006 Moore Road, which is right next door to that property. They put a permit in and said it was going to be a remove and replace decking. I went by yesterday and they've got it appears that they're enlarging the deck. So we're going to have to issue a stop work order. And that goes hand in glove with what Bob was talking about and what Chris was talking about. When someone comes in here and they tell us one thing, we take it, and I know Joe and I have had some discussions about this. At some point, not at some point, we take what people give us, what they're doing. And then quite often, that's not what they're doing. So I'd like to keep that to a minimum. Okay. I think we said that we were going to hold off on
Are we going back to septic components and the setbacks?
right. So the last thing, I think we should hold off on the dumpster grandfather dwelling until Pete's here. So the last thing that I have is the septic components and setbacks. So I think that warrants some discussions from everybody.
I would say by definition, in our ordinance, which I have somewhere 154 point something, the definition it's defined as a structure, the septic components. And even though it's a subsurface structure, and they cannot be in the setback. And that's, I think it's clear. I don't know if that's the right thing, you know, if we need to change that ordinance, but that's what it says now, in my opinion.
Okay, Anita?
I agree, I looked at some of the documents and it says, so.
Okay.
Yeah, George said, prohibits septic systems. Which includes pipes, they said it's septic tank, the construction, the night. When I said systems, that was going wrong, the system has to be component put together, so. If there's a need to separate the two and restrict it, the tank is not going there, the drain field is acceptable. I don't know, you guys really close to the field or the needs are. There's not any issue associated with that. And people right along with that, it says sprinklers. How we classify your house sprinklers classified as a structure.
That's never come up to us.
Yeah.
Septic system.
It's in there.
It's in here, yes, so subsurface structure, any structure underground and not visible on the surface of the zoning lot, including septic system and sprinklers.
Well, and it's in there because it got defined that way. I could see where those could become an issue, or people encroach like fences, but it's the gray areas we had in a couple months, and it was on your agenda earlier, is, you know, under state code, as Larry has presented before, there's a project that's out there that the county had the ability to approve something going into the right, which by definition violates something what the state code said they could. So that might be something to look forward as you guys are doing is, do you want them, do you want to protect? I think there's arguments you could make on both sides very easily to say, hey, we should, so that you're not doing work right on somebody's property line and affecting their property without a variance. And otherwise, might be an argument that the drain field, is that part of what is that in terms of the system? Is that part of it and it shouldn't go there, or is it? So those are all things as you're looking through, do you suggest some clarity? But right now, back to what Joyce said, by the definition of the code as it sits, there are structures that cannot go in setback.
I don't know. Hold on, Dan. You're gonna have to wait. We're in the middle of something here.
So if we said pipes can go, pipes and sprinklers, so holding tanks or drainage fields, would that be a reasonable? I mean, because you don't want drainage fields right next to your neighbor, because sometimes septic's fail and you smell them. Septic. If you said pipes are okay and sprinklers and sprinkler systems like pipes, you can't really say, oh, sprinkler system in a setback, because, you know, it's a circle, you know, when they spray. So you're never gonna cover your yard, and say that you can't put a septic or a sprinkler system on the property line close to the property. But maybe we should make a distinction between pipes and the rest of the septic system and the drainage field. That's how it's.
I tried to get this function.
Well, I think he means changing the code though to reflect that,
Right.
Yeah.
to match what your logic was in that. But back to what Joyce said, you're handcuffed with the code says, yeah.
I used to see sprinklers in there.
So here, I'm gonna share this on the screen so that everybody understands exactly what we're talking about. Because it's important enough, because there have been a lot of inquiries in the last several months about vacant property and property on Lakeshore Drive. And the biggest challenge that when I tell people this is, you know, the setbacks are pretty simple for us. We've all set for black and white. Then I bring up the issue, I say, you may have more of a challenge with the septic system. And I'm not advocating for one way or the other, but this is a permit that we approved with some conditions that had to be met, which is they had to record this dispersal field that was actually in the town right of way, a section of it. And I called Julie Hewson and I asked her what, you know, is that okay with you? And then she went through, she asked me, she said, do you think I made a bad decision? I said, no, I'm not questioning your decision. I want to make sure that we all understand the rules behind it so that we can present them. So that was one part of this. The other part of this is, this isn't the right one. Well, I could show you on this one. See this curved line? That's the chord. It's called the chord of the lot. So the 30-foot setback, bear with me. Let me get the correct one up here. This is, can you guys see this?
Yeah.
Let me just zoom out a little bit. Okay, so the 30-foot line, you see the arrow here? See this corner of the lot, the dark line is the actual lot line. This dashed line is the 30-foot setback. So the tank is in, this is the septic tank where my mouse is moving around. That is in almost entirely in the side setback. Then the pipes, this is a distribution box right here. That's in not only in the side setback, it's in the front setback, the entire drain field. And because of the slope of the lot, they have to have, which is this hash line area, a dispersal area. And that dispersal area is there because if the drain field fails, because it's on a slope, they have to have this area available for drainage purposes. So that's what I call Judy, because she allowed this, even though this corner of this dispersal area is on town property. And she allowed it based on, which I said to everybody here, based on the rule. I think it said if it was planted before 12 years ago, that it was acceptable. So she based that on. So then they came to us and our discussion was, I'm concerned that this driveway is not going to be able to be built without a retaining wall. We allow the driveway to be in the setback, but we would not allow a retaining wall. So we said we wanted to make sure that you understand and that you abide by the steep slope ordinance and the dispersal situation with the parking. We asked that required that they record that with the deed. When this whole septic issue came up, that's why I want to have the decision of the group. Is this allowable or is it not? If it's not allowable, then I'm going to have to go back to them and say, you can't do this.
Well, as a clarification, I want to go back to Bernicki because I believe that their septic system is an issue as well. And here's why. If you look at the picture, their septic tank is angled and there's a section of it that is in the front. They have to comply with the front setback on both street sides.
Right.
They asked for variances for what they did along Ridge Road. They did not ask for one where septic system is. And that is technically within the 30-foot setback.
Okay.
And so going back to that point too, just as a for you to consider, I don't think all of what we were kicking around about whether the 10 feet applies side and front, right? It's the same setback for them. They have 30 on both streets.
Right.
Yes. Then the other, it's the
The
same.
rear setback is 20, front's 30 on the lower portal, which would have been a side.
Yeah.
But now because it's a street, it's 30.
I'm with you on that. But so it's another one to think about. Their septic tank as depicted is in the setback.
So does everybody understand what our dilemma is?
Would it maybe make sense to,
It's on A1.1 there.
would it make sense to maybe change the setback for septic? So that, because 30 feet is gonna be pretty restrictive. And Michigan City isn't likely to allow us to hook up to their sewer system. That's pretty much a given. Unless things change dramatically. And will anybody ever be able to build a house in Long Beach or allow a house in Long Beach?
Without variance, right? So maybe you say that it's based on what the county approves. Now that's assuming you trust that the county's gonna do their due diligence and make sure that things are code or versus something gets rubber stamped. And I'm not putting any tag on them, but that might be a way around it, that as long as changing that language from prohibiting them to say, as long as you have a septic system that has been approved by the state and the county or in compliance with Indiana requirements, that they're allowable wherever they're allowed to be placed.
Yeah, I'm not sure I trust downstate enough to do that.
No,
But maybe we could say 10 feet, no matter what side of the house you're on, for a septic system.
and I don't know if that does or doesn't make sense, or you know,
Allow people to maybe be able, like, for Nicky's, put in a septic system.
or maybe we just mirror and get the specifications from what, if, for instance, the county uses, and we incorporate those directly, so that there's a number that to which somebody can refer, and we're not guessing, right? And then they still have the ability to ask for a variance if they want to go 5 feet or those kinds of things.
First of all, the drawing for the Bernicki project is up here. And what Chris is saying is, this is a 30-foot setback. Again, it runs through on this south side, the east side, west side of the house. So they got variances for all these sections of the house that came in here. They did not get variance for the septic tank. It's fairly light, but I think everybody should look, you'll see it. So the entire septic tank is right here. It's in the 30-foot setback. Part of the drain field that they don't have their septic drawn in here, but part of the drain field is in the 30-foot setback. And this says that it's meets the 10-foot setback. So that's the problem. So now here's two projects before us where components of those systems are in the setback.
And I'm gonna guess that they probably thought this got approved by the county, so we're good, right? But what you are allowed to do is make things more restricted. You can't make them less restrictive. So your code says that's a no, they can't put their tank there without a variance. You have no authority. Now, has it been done? Maybe over history, or
I'm sure it does.
yeah, it likely has, and for all the reasons that you've suggested here, why you might even consider proposing some changes, but because it's come up, now everybody's paying attention a little bit closer, and this is I'm gonna guess it's an honest mistake on their part, because they've always drawn it, had it indicated on their drawings that way. It's been something that they proposed, it hasn't changed, they're not hiding it, but when we get down to it, it's a violation.
It'd be better let Bernicki's know that we have concerns about that
I
setback.
just made a note.
Because if they get variance for their house and rear setback,
And they
they're gonna be this.
So that's the dilemma, is I want to make sure, and Joy, I agree with you. So if the ordinance says septic systems are structures, then they cannot be in the setbacks. So that's what we'll enforce. But I think it's a good idea to have the town council, or however that happens, to have them look at. And I mean, I certainly, and I'm going to speak to what Bob said. I know the lots on either side of me, but if I didn't, I wouldn't want somebody's failed septic tank to be 5 foot, even though the state says it could be 5 foot from the property line. On that 10-foot setback, I'd prefer it to be at the 10, so I think that needs some discussion.
And I think that if it's clear, you have the chairperson from the APC that you don't have to delay it further. That's just a topic that could come up before the APC, right? To initiate, because that's a zoning code change. So that's a procedure. That is so you have to go through and have a public hearing there, and then it goes to town council. So that if you want to address that sooner than later,
Well, zoning code changes need to go to the APC.
one way or the other, they do. So they go to the town. All you can do is suggest. The APC either initiates them or the town council exists. So it's not next week, it's the week after. The town council could propose something. Either way, it has to go before them for consideration, and there has to be a public hearing. And so that is a process because it's part of the zoning code.
Well, maybe the building commission should talk to the APC with a suggestion, APC can look at.
Well, sure, certainly could do most of the heavy lifting, and then it could be initiated, but one way or the other,
President, who will prevail in the situation, the county with no jovial words, drawing and showing, or the town, the house, setback.
No, the town would, but for that one anomaly that I think the builder is Mr. Green, that's an anomaly in that there's an old grandfather under the state statutes that say if this was platted before the state, but you can require them to be, now at some point, I think if it was so restrictive and you rendered their property useless because of your restrictions, now you probably have problems. But right now, for instance, if Vernicki's have plenty of space, that's just where they chose to put it, right? That's. But it's one that I think, based on your logic and the things we discussed, it's an easy clear up, and probably because I should say, most lots in this town are not conforming, it makes sense.
Most of the lots that they left, and that's the problem, because all the calls that we get now are for steep slope lots on Lakeshore Drive. Lots that are non-conforming throughout the interior sections. And as I said, I'm not advocating one way or the other, but I just want to make sure that we're all clear so that what we enforce, when we're talking to people, is what we perceive or we.
And that discussion, well, then I wouldn't necessarily, I think necessarily, as you guys also considering the 106, right, that requirement as well, especially if they're going to be subsurface.
And there's two on Lakeshore Drive right now that have called, and I've actually been talking to them for probably a year and a half, the other one for probably a year. And septic system is a septic system. I don't want to say they're a problem, but the 106.6 line comes into play at one of the properties. In their septic field, the way it was drawn, the field is beyond that line. So with what we're saying is, no, my understanding.
Yeah, and I do think that this is one that you might, not pressing you for more meetings and cut your hourly rate for all of these things, but it might be one that is somehow expedited because, there's process. So again, we have to, let's say the APC says we're going to consider this and they take a vote to move forward. Then we have to have at least 10 days before public hearing and publish that. And then after that, the town council, and then again, as we've discussed earlier, it's building season and there's already 4 properties that are in jeopardy that potentially, if they have to go for variances, that's 2 months. If they were available at the next one. So, I think that you have the ability to expedite that one, but it's probably something that you might want to consider an extra meeting somewhere along the line to correct that situation. So get to your point, so that you're within the law and you've been very stringent to say we can't do that at this level. And I agree, you can't grant variances. So the only way is to correct that language.
And this is going to require changes to both the waterline setback ordinance and the general setback ordinance, right?
And the definitions.
Yep.
Right. Okay, everybody good with that?
Yeah, be reminded it says sprinklers too.
Yeah, we need to address the issue.
Yeah.
So, okay, for everybody, Dan?
Yeah, I went back, so that's nervous, but I still don't understand, not wonder about the same conversation, why are there variants? Because isn't it when the water fluctuates to the high water line, because that's what I want, because I don't. It doesn't fluctuate, I don't have.
Here, you know what, it's actually a fairly simple thing about problems, we use steam control.
It's in there, very nice, the Constitution, it's not a Constitution thing, something.
We're very nice.
And I don't know, I'm asking, I don't think, I just want to know what's talking about. Like, if all, this one guy about that, the guy wanted to do it, his wife called and said, don't scare you. He almost had me do it, I just want to, well, I better get permission first, and she called me back, said, don't get yourself in trouble, and that's what I want to make this.
It's a big issue.
Okay, so here's the deal. This is a lot, okay, doesn't matter if it's lot, your house is here. Let's say you got a pool here, your garden off here. This lot. It's all for debate, but I think what I'm gonna tell you here is riparian rights don't enter into our thought process here, because there's a line. Well, the national order have one. That line right now, maybe not by certain standards, but that line right now by the Army Corps of Engineers and the Department of Natural Resources. They say that line is 584 feet. above sea level. So that line was a meandering line. In June of 2020, the Army Corps of Engineers shot the town, paid Del Terra, to the tubes. You have to have a certified delineator say where this line is. So the town paid Del Terra company, West Lafayette, I don't know, $5,000, $6,000 to determine that. Stop 28, 23, and there was 3 stops. So that, they came back and they said, we have determined the line is 581.2 feet above sea level. But she said, my report's not finished because the Army Corps of Engineers is not certified. So we're thinking, okay, we have to wait. We were doing. 2 weeks later, we get a letter from the Army Corps of Engineers that says, we do not agree with Del Terra's report. That's why we won't certify it. We have determined they went stop 31 and Long Beach all the way to Whiting, and they determined that the extraordinary high water mark is 584 feet. There's been much debate, much discussion amongst this group is how do we enforce that? My thought process is I'm going to go with these guys. Okay, we can't force somebody to go have somebody do a delineation. So they said that they were going to do that every 3 to 5 years. They haven't done it. In the Lake Michigan Coastal Program board meeting, I asked Jenny Osborne and Joe Sell, who are the DNR, work for the DNR. If they heard it, Joe said he thinks they're going to do it in the next month or 2. So this will probably change from these 2 individuals' standpoint. So what that means to you or anybody else is anything later of this 584. The town of Long Beach doesn't have jurisdiction on it. The Army Corps of Engineers has jurisdiction on it. The DNR has jurisdiction on it. That's an extraordinary high water. Then what does the extraordinary high water mean to anybody? Well, there was a case, Chris can speak to it if he wants, we call it normally referred to as the Gunderson case. Went all the way through the Supreme Court in Indiana, and they tried to have it heard at the U.S. Supreme Court taking the hearings. And that case says this landowner owns property from this Lakeshore Drive lot to this line. That's it. Nothing here. Riparian rights are no English thing. And Chris isn't going to give you advice, but it is, in essence, it said you can always maintain access to the water if you own land or something, but getting a pot full of water. But that doesn't concern us. And I know that some people think that that gives them the right to do whatever they want. Right. There's ownership of land. This person owns this land, but they have to abide by the rules of the town. Okay. That's the problem. Riparian rights doesn't give you the right to be able to build a skyscraper on this property because you want to manage or earn it. We have the town has jurisdiction from here. The Army Corps of Engineers and the DNR has jurisdiction from here. The work that you want to do is behind this line, I know. Right? That means that our rules govern what you want to do. Regardless, this property is owned. I mean, it's just like, let's say the neighbor here wants to build a 14-car garage on the property. Just because they own the property doesn't mean they can do that. They have to abide by the rules.
Okay, that makes sense. So even though the DNR, it was passed the water on 584, because she did get permission, but it had no jurisdiction.
I actually talked about this case with the DNR. They said there, and I keep you reading that letter, anything that you, which is exactly what I just explained, anything that you want to do, Lakewood, of this 584, you have to get permission of these 2 groups. Anything that you do from that 584 line to Manward, you have to get permission from this.
That makes a lot more sense because
Regardless of what we, I know exactly what's going on. People do try it all the time. I own it. Well, yeah, you do. But you have to abide by the rules.
no, that's not what they're is. They threw me on the bus, but when you buy it, this is, you want to share.
Well, and it's, yeah,
It was sad for me because it wasn't a big project, and I'm not gonna go, I'm doing it, you know, like, he called me, someone said, do it. I'm like, I don't know, and I called someone, she said, don't you dare.
well, and just so you know, as a contractor, last year, the ordinance has changed it to where not only are the homeowners getting fined, but so are the contractors. And, you know, Larry's summary of that, you know, ultimately the law is gonna apply that if it were to come down to it, it's the natural ordinary high water mark, and then there's some discussion about the administrative line. But, you know, the long and the short, it's a jurisdictional issue, and there's a reason that they gave you print offs and gave you the locker room lawyer version versus a lawyer's opinion on it.
Right.
Because it isn't so, and riparian rights are access to water, they have nothing to do with this.
So,
It's a jurisdictional issue, and Larry summed it up perfectly, that if it were all on the beach, you wouldn't even have to be here. Except how do you get to the beach? That's the question, down a stop. That's a jurisdictional issue for the town. But if you were northward, then you're just dealing with the state and the ordinance.
154 L 112, right?
154.112, yep. Yeah, and that's just what
Well-
says you need a topography.
When I go to this house, I'm say, you know, it's for me to ask, because otherwise they blind people in and follow.
That's all right. It's good for you to be aware because you do a lot of that work, and there's a lot who don't
Well,
take the opportunity to come here and you find out later. So.
The DOT, that is one time, they start driving my truck and the guy goes, "That's this is how I read the DOT, this is on the play, well, this is how I read it right here." I said, perfect. You do what I want. I just want to verify something that's stupid, that about that.
No, and the problem is, Dan, it's a complicated. There's a lot of discussion about things, riparian rights, as Chris said, all that is access to water, has nothing to do, it's, yes, you own the land, but you have to abide by the rules, otherwise. We wouldn't have a job, right, we wouldn't have a job. Okay,
I just want to.
just let you know, I help you out.
Yeah, no, I'm just glad everything. Very fast. I go look at my shop, go, "Oh, man."
See you later. Thanks. Commission comment.
I do have a question, and we can just say, don't talk about it, but I was on the beach. And so, of course, when I'm on the beach, there are people that have built wonderful beach stairs that go sideways, and then we still have the old beach stairs, and it was thought you all tried so hard. So if we just kind of, I don't want to say anything in public, but people say like, no, they're not caring anymore, but was it just too big of a, which we can't even, we'll just talk about another time.
No, Anita, the reality is that the steps are the same. Our ordinance is the same. People do things outside of ordinances.
Oh, I know, right.
On the way here, we granted a permit for somebody on Glendale Way. And the deck was to be over their driveway because it was existing space. I just drove by there and they added 15 feet on it.
That's 2509.
Or 2506.
Yeah, I mentioned that to Carter and then didn't follow up on
And
it.
then Carter's gonna go put a stop work order.
Yeah.
So people do, believe it or not, I know it's hard to believe, but people do things that.
No, I know, because I walked by there and I saw what they were doing. There's wood and plants and everything, but I don't want to be the police.
But I think to cut to your point, that got put on hold because of circumstances.
Okay,
But it is something that if you decide you want it to be
okay,
reinstituted, but yeah, it had to be put on hold.
okay.
The stairs, people are supposed to get permits for stairs, and we don't give permits for any stair unless it meets our ordinances. So if somebody sees somebody that's doing that, you should report it, call on it, and then should let us know regardless of how it's stated.
Good.
Yeah, actually, Linda, do a survey and do.
Right.
And
No, I-
so it never happened.
I know, certain.
But, yeah, that's probably something that still ought to be done, because I see a lot of old stairs now. And they're old, but nobody ever got a permit, so they probably ought to make one now.
Okay, thank you.
Any other commission comments? There's no, anybody left on Zoom?
No.
Okay, no public comments, motion to adjourn. Second, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Those same side. Thank you.